There are many games in the gaming world that transcend the gaming community. And what I mean is that people even outside of the sphere know of their existence. And one of those games is Resident Evil. Resident Evil has been around for a very long time, and it has very clearly inspired a lot of horror games after it. And I know that it has transcended the gaming sphere because my mom knows what Resident Evil is. And she's someone who has never played any video games. She knows them from the movies, but still, I think that goes to show just how far-reaching the title has come. Now, for context here, I was planning on doing a deep dive into older game franchises just because, well, why not? I wanna play them. I wanna learn a lot about old different games, and I was between Devil May Cry and Resident Evil. And so talking to my friend, he suggested Resident Evil. I believe he is someone who has played most of the Resident Evil games, so I figured, okay, why not? I was surprised to find out the sheer amount of games there are in the franchise. So through a lot of intense internet research, I had to figure out what order to play them in, and I decided to do them chronological order, not release order. So I ended up starting at the beginning, that being Resident Evil 0. To be honest, I didn't even know there was a 0 entry in the franchise, but the last thing that I watched that had 0 in it was Fate Zero, and Fate Zero is one of my favorite animes, so I was pretty excited to see what this game had to offer. So I had no idea about the Resident Evil lore. All I know is that there are zombies walking around, and there are things that are not zombies walking around. Leon is a character, Ada is super hot, and that's pretty much all I know about the Resident Evil franchise. So I was going in 100% blind. I had no idea what to expect, and I was shocked by a lot of things, to say the least. So for starters, I guess just to talk about the game itself, Resident Evil 0 is obviously a prequel to the main game. You play as Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen. Crash land in a forest and make your way to a zombie-infested train. And then from that train, you end up at this facility where I believe the Umbrella Corporation is starting to create the T-virus, and it has first started to spread. And then you find out that this guy named Dr. James Marcus is the one responsible for creating it and releasing it onto the world. So, yeah, so my lore isn't exactly great on the Resident Evil series. Like I said, all I know is that there's a zombie outbreak. So I'm assuming that this is where it started. This is the facility where it was created, and this is where it started to spread. In terms of how the story is told, I mean, it is a bit of an older game. I don't know how story-focused older games are, but it isn't, really like in your face about the lore. Actually, a lot of the stuff is told through notes that you find throughout the game. But I will say it's easy to understand. James Marcus is the villain. Rebecca and Billy are stuck in this situation. They have to get out of it by avoiding all the dangers. And then once it ends, I'm assuming it just leads directly into the first game. Now, in terms of gameplay, I was taken aback just how many puzzles were involved in it. I did not think Resident Evil was so heavily reliant on puzzles in the franchise. I mean, that's probably just a side effect to me only seeing the recent games and the remakes, so I'm assuming they probably just changed a bunch of the gameplay in it. And what's interesting about Resident Evil 0 is that you're actually controlling two characters. And one thing that I needed to learn by playing the game was utilizing the switching mechanic and splitting up the characters. When I first started playing, I was walking around with both of them the entire time. I did not realize how difficult it would be to keep them alive, both of them alive at the same time, and how many resources you actually expend by having them both fight the enemies in the game. And that's also another thing that I had to catch on to and learn, is that sometimes leaving the enemies is the best decision. A lot of times you're going to have to run, dodge, and weave to avoid the enemies so that way you can save on resources. And that leads me into the biggest strength of the game, and that is the horror aspect of it. So a lot of horror games really rely on, I guess for lack of better terms, being scary. I mean, obviously that's the whole point of them being scary, but this game, it being older, the monsters don't look scary because they look old graphics, right? It's not gonna look scary. But what makes it so scary, I feel, is that it uses the type of media it is to its advantage. So what that means is, I don't know if all the games are going to be like this, but there are limited saves and you can only save in certain spots. Meaning if you die at the wrong time, all your progress is lost. Not to mention the amount of resources are just so scarce that you actually have to plan out using them. And that alone makes it so much more tense and so much more nerve-wracking because you don't know what type of enemy is in a room and you don't know how many resources you're going to have left. Because you could just get caught in a bad spot with no ammo, die, and then have to replay an entire segment over again. And that is where I feel a lot of the horror comes from, a lot of the tense feeling, and that is utilizing the fact that it's a video game to its advantage, which is something that a lot of media I don't think really does, is use what type of media it is to its advantage. Because this is a feeling that can only be provoked because it's a video game. If it was any other way, it wouldn't be able to provoke the feeling the way that it does. Now, it does, probably for newer players, there are a lot of things that are unoptimized about it, like the fixed camera angles. That really screwed me over a lot, and it took me a lot of getting used to. The having to stand in place while shooting is also very different from what I'm used to. And a lot of the gameplay you're seeing, this is not the first run that you're seeing. So this just goes back to what I said about the learning, like right here and resource managing. Like there was this one time where I ended up, I think, I forgot what it was. I ended up using, I don't remember exactly what happened. But I think I ended up using, I'll just say I used my grenade ammo. And then I went into this one room where there was like these frog creatures, and they ended up killing me because I didn't have enough damage to deal with them quickly. So when I went back, I ended up taking these items that I saw and I crafted Molotovs, and I went in and I was able to deal with the frog creatures. So that's kind of a lot of like what the game is. It's learning and then going through everything again and just trying to get past it. Just trial and error, trying it again, trying it again. But again, it's like learning, and that's like what a lot of older games did. I feel like they were just intentionally really hard because they needed games to last a lot longer. I mean, nowadays games are like coming out left, right, and center. Like I could literally just log on to Steam and buy a new game whenever I want. I'm pretty sure when this game, Resident Evil 0, well, maybe not because this isn't the first game that was made in the franchise, but I guess around, I'm pretty sure this was on like the NES or the SNES, right? So games were far and few between back then, so they probably needed to be harder so that you can prolong the amount of time you play the game and stuff like that. And there's an achievement in this game called Don't Save at All, which means you have to beat it in one sitting, which that is crazy. But like I said, it's trial and error. You just have to learn what happens in a room, where you can afford to use your resources and where you have to save your resources and stuff like that. It's kind of reminiscent. If I had to compare it to like a quote unquote modern game, it's kind of like Fear and Hunger, where you have to just learn your routes, you use your limited saves wisely so that way you're able to return back at a good spot and then learn from your deaths. That way you're able to get past certain obstacles. It is probably a bit more forgiving than Fear and Hunger, I would say. But there is definitely some just bullcrap in the game, because sometimes you'll go into a room and then a strong enemy will just spawn randomly and then it'll catch you off guard and there's just nothing you can do. But either way, I had a lot of fun just learning like how to optimize your resources and controlling the characters. Like I said, probably the biggest key thing would be learning that you don't have to kill and fight every enemy, and to utilize the splitting up the characters mechanic, because that was probably the most important thing when learning the game. And like I said, as for the story, it's because it's a prequel. It was made after the first one. It was made in mind with the player knowing what happened already. It's just a little bit different for me because I'm playing them in chronological order. So I'm pretty sure the story will be done a lot clearer. I'm pretty sure these characters will return. I'm pretty sure I'll understand it a lot better. And as the games go on, when storytelling became a more important thing in video games, I'm sure I'll be able to grasp onto the lore and everything that's happening a lot easier. I do like the characters. I like Rebecca, I like Billy. So we'll see if they show up again in the franchise. But dude, just playing this game just felt so nostalgic. Just like it gave me that. I didn't even play this when it first came out. It just like the old style and all of it just reminded me of like old school games. And I did play the remastered version, but even then, the graphics didn't really look that bad. They looked pretty decent, to be honest. I think they still hold up today. But yeah, I enjoyed playing Resident Evil Zero. We'll see how the rest of the games go, because like I said, I'm doing a deep dive, so I'll be playing all the games in the Resident Evil franchise. I guess this is actually a pretty good time because the time recording this, I believe Resident Evil 9 or the one after Village is coming out, so hopefully I can get through all of them and then I can start up on Village once Village, or the one after Village. I think it's called Requiem or something. Once it comes out. But we'll see. Like I said, it's a little bit hard. It's a lot of puzzles. Those usually aren't my favorite type of games, but the feeling of accomplishment coming through the game is just amazing. Like I felt so accomplished completing the game, and all in all, I actually enjoyed it. Like once I figured out there were so many puzzles, I actually thought, am I really gonna like this? But I liked it. I think Resident Evil Zero is a great place to start if you want to get into the franchise. It's a great starting point. It holds up, honestly. And yeah, so that's all for this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.